Alpha Sessions. Hi everyone and welcome to Alpha Sessions. We're very lucky to have Caitlin Mae back with us today. Welcome Caitlin, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. Thank you so much for having me back.
Oh, we're really lucky to have you back. You've got some really exciting things happening. I just wanted to dive straight into what's going on. So your third teaser single, Take My Demons, is out on the 28th of May, available for pre-order now. How are you feeling?
I am so excited, and I say this every release, I really do, but it is just so exciting and exhilarating to just be in that world, in that bubble of your single, and everything is related to that song. And
Yeah.
I've actually this time decided to put the secret link out on SoundCloud, and the first 10 people who pre-ordered and pre-saved got the secret link. So that was 3 weeks before it actually came out.
That's
So
cool.
I'm more excited this time because I've actually had a few people who've heard it and they've said that they like it. So I think it's just awesome to have that pre-excitement.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. You said it took when you chatted with Ron a few months ago. You mentioned it took a lot of strength to write this one. Can you tell us any more about the process of writing this song? Just kind of, I don't know if you wanted to, or if you're able to kind of give us a little bit of the background. If not, don't worry. But just kind of, yeah, I wanted to know what the process was like because it's a really raw, emotional song.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. It was very emotional to write it, and
Mm,
everything I wanted to be really authentic. So everything really was raw because I didn't want to smooth over things and make
mm,
them sound maybe not as harsh and hard as they were at the time. But I kind of, because it's about my sister and our relationship. And
right.
when I was born, she was 15, 16, I think. So
Okay.
there is a big age gap there. And she really didn't like me. Probably before I was born, she didn't want a sister or a brother, I guess. Um, and my parents kind of thought, well, that could be normal. Even though she
Mm,
always said she would like a sibling, it could be normal because it is a shock when you've kind of grown up as an only child for so long. Um, but everyone they talked to and just from their experience, when the new baby is born, they kind of snap out of it and they love the new child and they love this new dynamic. But that never happened. And obviously, even when you're really young and you're a toddler and you're running around, children too do tend to pick up on things and realize that there is tension there, even if they can't fully understand it or explain it. So I always kind of felt that she didn't like me, but I was she must love me because in my head I was family loves each other. That's
mm.
how it works. And then as the years kind of went on, and I was probably only 6 or 7 when I realized, no, you sometimes, even if it is family and even if they live in the same house as you and your blood, that doesn't mean that there's going to be love there, no matter how much you want it. And sometimes the more you want it, the more you push that person away, because I was so desperate. And really, it was hard, I think, to write the whole EP, and I feel like there's still more to write about because it's an ongoing experience.
Mm.
Because even though there is no relationship there, despite how much I want there to be she will always be my sister, so there will always be some form of contact. So I think it will always be an ongoing experience, and just something that hopefully will never be as hard as it was, because I've learned to kind of cope and realize that first and foremost you need to love yourself to be able to kind of move on and be happy. Because if you base your happiness on the way somebody else perceives you, it can be really hard, because if you feel they don't like you and you're basing your happiness off that, it can make you not like yourself, and that's the hardest thing.
So how did you did you feel that this is a song that you wanted to write for a while and it just came out now? Or how did you feel ready to address that issue? Because it must have been quite painful as well.
Yeah, I definitely kind of I'm trying to think. Yeah, the first song that I wrote that was about this experience and about my relationship with my sister. The first song was Gasoline, which is going to come out when the whole EP comes out.
Right.
And I just thought this is the song and that'll be the end of it. But then I didn't realise that opening that gate and writing that first song, once I started, I realised how much more there was to the story and how much more I could write, and I could kind of release a lot of emotions into my music. And so I think it was that initial song. Before then, I had never written about that because it was so personal. And in a way, for so many years, there's not even the perfect word for it. It was almost embarrassment because I felt like it was my fault, and if I told a story, people would blame me the way she blamed me all my life. I just felt like maybe I was the issue, and people would always feel the same way she felt. And I think I was just afraid that I would lose a lot of people if I did talk about it and open up about it. So my family were like the only people who knew because they saw firsthand. But when I did write that first song, it made me feel such huge relief that I was like, I need to continue down this path and feel like I need to like finish something that I've started. So I decided to do the 4-song EP, and probably could have done a full album, but I'd never released anything other than a single before. So I decided to start by dipping my toe in the water with an EP. And then that was when I thought of the name Perspective.
I was going to ask you about the name, if you could tell us the story behind the
Yeah,
name.
because I thought there is so much more than just one perspective, and that makes it sound like from other people's perspectives, but actually it's all at the moment from my perspective, but it has changed because I was so young when I started to realize, and you grow and develop, and as I got older, my views actually changed. So I wanted to write a song kind of from each perspective of me kind of growing up. And Take My Demons is probably one of the more heartbreaking ones because it was just all about the hurt and just how much I felt so much pain, I think. And you just don't realize that the person who holds the most power to hurt you is your family because they know the most about you.
It makes you really vulnerable, doesn't it? As
Yeah,
well?
yeah. And my parents, because I'm so close to my parents, and obviously your parents know you really well, and they were kind of like, you need to trust more people. And that is so hard because I think maybe if your trust had been betrayed by somebody who was just a friend or someone you'd only known a few years, but when you feel like your trust has been betrayed by somebody you've known all your life,
It really hits deep, doesn't it?
yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, even probably 4 or 5 years ago, I couldn't have had this conversation, even though I understood it, I couldn't talk about it without crying and getting upset because I think emotions always give you judgment, no matter how much your brain is telling you, well, this is the fact, these are the facts. Your heart is telling you that there's still a chance that she could change her mind and she might love me one day, and maybe if I just change to fit the person she wants me to be, I can, get her to like me and want to spend time with me. And I used to say to my mum, maybe I did something when I was really young, when I was a child, and I can't remember what I did. So was there something that I did wrong? And my mum was like, there was nothing you did wrong. If you dislike a child from birth, there is nothing that child could have done at that time. Um, so I think it was just such a mental block for her that grew into this huge monster. And sometimes you can't, it is hard to explain. Maybe sometimes you can't see your own flaws and you can only see what you want to see, maybe.
So writing from these different perspectives has kind of like helped you get like a better understanding.
Yeah, and I always said to my mum, there will always be love there because I'm not somebody who I find it really hard to hate, and hate is such a big word, and I know that all emotions are like, fueled by passion, and there's passion behind love and hate. But I said, I'll always love her, but I actually had to cut off contact completely because it was destroying me, knowing that I couldn't force her to love me.
You couldn't do anything. I really like the line well, but the line in the song, "Pack your bags, you're leaving," is just so strong, because it's like you're kind of like taking your power back, saying, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, it was. I think I always like had this smile on my face, and people always used to comment on, like, you look so happy, and I've never seen you like cry or look upset. But it was more behind closed doors. I was coming home, and I was so distraught almost, and I was desperate. I was so desperate, and I've never felt before like I've been on my knees begging somebody for their approval as much as I did growing up, and wanting her to kind of change her mind. I used to say to my parents, I used to cry and just say, why does she hate me, and what can I do to change her mind and to make her love me? And sometimes no matter how harsh it is, the only answer is nothing. There is nothing you can do to change somebody's mind once it's already set.
Sessions.
I wanted to talk to you also about the artwork of the EP. Can you describe the artwork, and what was the inspiration for that?
I always knew, there was just this vision, even from the very first song that I wrote, which was Gasoline, which is where the idea for the flames in the eyes came from. Because I always wanted it to stem from that first song, because it was my first step actually writing about what had happened. But I knew that I wanted the artwork to show vulnerability, but
Mhm.
also show almost a stroke of strength, because I wanted it to look like, with the flames in my eyes, that I was looking back at the fire and at the flames that I finally emerged from, and that I'm not actually still caught in the flames, that I've finally made my way to the other side, and you're looking back, and even though you can see pain and you can see hurt, you are finally on a new
Mhm.
path.
I
And
love that. That's really inspirational. I love
thank
that.
you. And I know that I always say, I write the songs and then I say the next most important thing is for the artwork to tell the story. And
Yeah.
everybody says to me, you can't tell the full story of a 3 or 4 minute song through one photo. And I'm like, but you can try.
Yeah.
And that is all, because sometimes they're like, oh, just grab a guitar and take a photo because it's music and that's fine. But I want it to tell the story and have a deeper meaning, because I think photos can be really powerful, and they can tell
Mhm.
stories.
Yeah, 100%.
The EP is coming out in June and I am
This is really
so
exciting
excited. I
because I
cannot wait.
because I know it's gone through, because obviously you were on the Alpha sessions before with Emma and Ron, so we're really lucky to have you for this third time to talk about these things. But the EP you were mentioning has gone through like lots of stages of development.
Yeah.
How did you know when the EP was like finally done? I wanted to ask you, are you kind of like more like a perfectionist, so you just like kept on going, or did you just know inside it's done, I'm going to leave it and that's it? How was that kind of final process?
I, for me, I always think the biggest chunk, and kind of when you like breathe that sigh of relief and you're not too stressed because you
Mm.
feel like it's in the final stages, is usually when I've written all the songs and I go in, I've recorded them, and they're not even mastered yet, but you can tell
Mm.
that the foundation is there, and you can just breathe this sigh of relief because you're like, I know now that there is just this final, like, very last stage, which is just like vetting everything and making
Yeah.
sure that it's perfect, because I am a perfectionist, and that is so stressful sometimes, because sometimes you just think like there's one thing that you could change to make it perfect, but that one thing is like the hardest thing to do and the hardest thing to change, because not everything like goes the way you expect, and
Mm.
especially in music, it's very it is very artistic and creative, so things sometimes change last minute and take a turn you would never have expected, because well, in fact, this EP probably never would have been born if it wasn't for the pandemic, because
Mm.
I planned for my debut EP to be completely different. It was comprised of different songs. Um, and then when we kind of went into lockdown and we couldn't get into the studio, I just sat down and wrote songs. And then I was like, my idea has just completely changed because this feels right. And sometimes when something feels right and you just in your gut you feel it, you need to follow it because it leads you down the right path. It does. And
Yeah.
I am glad in a way that it happened in the time frame that it did, because if it had just been a couple months later, I would have gone ahead with the initial idea for the debut EP, and it would have been a completely different story. So I'm glad that it did happen in this way.
Do you think that story is something that you still like talk about? Is that like maybe an idea for like the second EP? Are you still kind of thinking of like going down that route?
They definitely are still going to be released. I'm not sure if they will be released as singles. It
Right.
it depends, because I when I did this EP, it followed much more of a storyline, and even though the others they had like kind of connections, but they didn't really follow like, a fully like beginning, middle, and end,
Mm.
So I actually, when I did this one, I was like, I actually really like that idea and that formation. So I'll probably release the other ones as singles. And then I haven't said this before, um, but sometimes when you do say it out loud, it kind of pushes you to do it. But I would actually love to release for my second EP, um, 4 songs from my sister's perspective. So I would try to put myself in her shoes and write from her perspective, which is going to be really hard because you can't really get inside somebody else's mind. And sometimes the truth they speak out loud is not the truth they feel inside. but I want to give it my best shot because I feel like sometimes you need two sides to the story.
Yeah. And then it just kind of helps with your healing even more, maybe, just to kind of, just see it through and see like these other perspectives.
Yeah, and I do think that even though I was in a much better place to be able to write these songs, it has helped me heal so much further since I actually wrote them and recorded them, because it almost feels now like it's not this big personal story that has to be kind of like not fully talked about, and you have to kind of tiptoe around it. People know about it now, and I almost feel like it's not just my story anymore. When you share something, it's something that you can always talk to everybody about, and that is just like such a gift to be able to release songs where people feel like they've experienced it with you in a way, because it's kind of your journey, and they get to listen to everything, and it's like your deepest, darkest thoughts and also your brightest, happiest thoughts, everything combined. So it's been completely different writing from a much more personal perspective than writing about, something that you haven't actually experienced.
And I wanted to ask you, the last few months, because you caught up with Ron in February, how have these last few months been? Now we're kind of slowly coming out of the pandemic. Have you still, like, in terms of like your songwriting, is it still been quite a creative time? I saw on Instagram yesterday that like you'd been away for a weekend and you'd started writing something. So I was wondering, like, how's that process going? Are you still feeling quite creative?
I definitely am still feeling creative, and I think that something that these lockdowns and this pandemic has taught me is, before the world shut down, I had creative moments, but I didn't always make time to sit down and indulge and actually get those words down on paper. And you miss opportunities because sometimes that inspiration won't come again. It was a specific moment in time and you had to get it down when it was fresh. And sometimes I've put it off and I've said, well, I can't because I've got this planned and I've got this planned, and you know, but I've realized now that when the inspiration hits, you have to make time for it, because otherwise it is gone, and you can't force that exact idea to come back. So I think from now on, even if I am busy, I will always make the time to write something when I first think of it and when I feel like that creative, that creative energy.
That energy.
I want to get it down on paper, because you do just miss so many, great opportunities, and so many great songs can just go through the window because you decided you had to do it in a few days when you had time. Sometimes it's about making the time, even though it is going to be harder with the world opening back up to do that, because we'll actually have physical places to go rather than like everything being virtual.
The Alpha Sessions.
So no, you had some online gigs and you played at the Bluebird Cafe, which was like amazing. What's the plan for like real life gigs?
I'm so excited to get back on stage because it's been over a year.
A long time.
Because I know last summer some people were lucky enough to get on stages. It was still socially distanced, but I didn't manage that because a lot of them were in England, I think. And I'm in Wales, so it was difficult. But it's going to be very strange because back when I was last on stage, I couldn't play guitar. I hadn't, even had a guitar yet. And I started learning in lockdown. So this weekend I'll actually be playing a partial acoustic set. So it's going to be really crazy because it is so different to sitting down and just being like in a room in front of a camera with a guitar. I can imagine that the feeling is going to be a lot different stood up on stage with a guitar, and we'll see how it goes. But I'm more excited than anything. So I think as long as you can keep sight of that and not stress out, because whenever you decide a week before that you're really stressed,
oh god, everything just goes bad, doesn't it? Stress does crazy things to your brain.
It really does. It really does. So I'm like, no, I can't wait. I'm really excited. And I'm going to be actually doing a couple with tracks like I would have before I could play an instrument, because a couple of them are actually from this EP. So I haven't fully learnt them on guitar yet, because when I wrote these songs, I was still in the process of writing without an instrument and then taking it to the studio. So now my process is completely different because I write and play the guitar at the same time.
I was going to ask you about the process, because I remember a few months ago you said you were still kind of, had the lyrics in your head like before getting the guitar out. Is that kind of slowly changing, that you're doing both together, or how's that process changed now?
It is definitely slowly changing, because whenever you have a guitar in your hand and you're just like practicing, I always can't control myself. I have to sing, like it just happens naturally.
Yeah.
And then I feel like you might as well be writing a song. If you're gonna do it, you might as well be writing a song. So I do that, and pretty much every time I pick up the guitar, I end up starting a new song or finishing one. And sometimes I will start one and finish it literally in 20 minutes. It depends
Wow.
I think, how the inspiration is flowing, because sometimes
Mm.
I sit down just to practice and it's not really the inspiration was there first. I just decided to write a song. But if the inspiration is there and then you pick up the guitar, it can really be a fast process.
Yeah, it just flows.
And sometimes you're like, whoa, that was really, like, it was almost surreal. Like, it didn't feel real.
That's so cool. And also it must be like really satisfying for you to see like how you've made like such amazing progress with that, and like how things have changed, how it's like really impacting like your, you know, your creative process. That's really cool.
Yeah, and all I'm really bad for writing a song and straight away I want to play it on a live stream or show people straight away. And in a way, I've been saying to myself, like, you need to hold some things back so that you can have like surprise releases, so that every song hasn't already been heard. And the hardest thing has been that I've written one that I love, but I just felt like that was the one I should do that with. I should release it kind of almost as a surprise, and they would never have heard it prior to that. And that's really hard because I keep wanting to show people.
You're excited about it, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, no. Oh, I just wanted to get online and just show people straight away, and I'm like,
gotta be patient, yeah. No, it's hard. Yeah. Also, I wanted to ask you, have you got any plans? I know it's still like, you know, in the first stages of, you know, things starting to kind of get back to normal, but have you got any plans about like making videos, or like a video to like a company like you know, Take My Demons, or even like going forward? Have you thought about that? And is that something you really want to be involved in creatively? And what are you thinking about that?
100%. I really want to do a music video for every song I write, and I'm like, nope, you don't have the budget for that. You need to like chill out. But for this EP, because it's been like so important and it's been such a huge journey, I think, of just opening up, and for it to actually be a story of my own that I could tell and open up about, I really just felt like it needed a music video, and I've planned to do 2. So I would love to do one to Gasoline when the full EP comes out in June, and I'd love to do one to Take My Demons.
Yeah.
We've hit a bit of a bump in the road because my videographer that I used for A Candle for Christmas and that I would usually go to has just like got a new job, and it's further away, and he's just moving to England, and so he said he will still travel to Wales, but at the moment he's like literally moving all his stuff, and moving is so stressful, and he's trying to juggle this new job, and so he's trying to like work around his schedule. So in the meantime, I think I'm gonna have to go to a new videographer before I can go back to him. And I'm just kind of in the process of finding a new videographer because it all happened so quickly that I was like, no, I had this vision in my head that the music video would be done probably like, would have been filmed like next week probably. And it couldn't go ahead like that. But sometimes I just try to go with the flow because sometimes it's meant to happen like that. So I have a feeling that it'll all work out.
Yeah. And then it might like lead to you, you know, working with someone, well, for sure, it leads you to working with someone new, and then you could just like develop like a really, you know, cool relationship, like a working relationship, and if you like you really kind of like gel with that person, that could be like really exciting to like bring all your ideas to life.
Yeah, exactly. And I think as well, sometimes I'd written like this music video plan, and I felt like in a way there were a couple things I might want to add creatively. So maybe this extra bit of time when I'm looking for a new videographer would be a good time to just add those little bits in that I like had in my mind, and I could just work it all out and write this, you know, just maybe finish or add a few more things to the plan. But I am really excited for it because it's a completely different vibe to A Candle for Christmas, and so the music video is going to be
It's 100% different.
It's going to be probably a lot darker. Just the way the whole song is, and so that's going to be really interesting. But it's definitely something that I think is going to be a good experience.
Hopefully, as like things carry on getting back to normal and everything, then it's just a matter of time and being patient and just like, you know, doing things in the right time, I guess, isn't it? Like you've got a lot going on already, so that's great. I mean, one other thing, not to add more things, but I know you were hoping to go out to Nashville last year, the year before. I mean, this year, is it looking
It's so difficult because I wish I could just go tomorrow and just have that experience, visit Nashville, and it was going to be like a working trip. I was going to we had like things booked, and I was so excited, but because things are still really up in the air with the pandemic, and you just never know what is around the corner.
Yeah, it's not worth it, is it?
Travel is so almost it's really nerve-wracking.
It is, yeah.
Thinking about going to an airport, and usually we try to go away for a family holiday because, like, especially because we have a family business, so we're very much like work, and music and work, and so it's just usually really busy. Well, it's still been busy in lockdown. So usually we'd go away, but we're not going to do that just because of like the safety and just the worry of it, and the possibility that, you know, someone could come down with COVID, and
it's just not worth running the risk, is it?
I really want to go, and I really wish that I could just go this year, but I'm thinking that next summer would probably be more likely, and I'm just hoping that everything by then is really settled down, and people are feeling much more safe. And I think obviously the vaccines and everything hopefully is just going to get better from here, fingers crossed. And I just hope that obviously with things opening back up, everybody is just really safe and cautious, because hopefully then we can stay open rather than locking back down. I don't want to lock back down.
But the good thing is, I mean, you've got so much going on, you know, like with this latest single that's out soon, with the EP, and with, like, you know, just carrying doing gigs and festivals. At least you've got so much going on. Probably couldn't even fit in Nashville, right?
I know. That's what I'm trying to tell myself. I'm like, oh, you couldn't do it. But then the devil on my shoulder is like, but you would have cancelled everything to go, so you could have done it.
No, 2022 is going to be the Nashville year. I can feel it.
I can feel it in my bones.
Oh, we're so excited for you. Best of luck with Take My Demons. I just wanted to, do you want to remind people how to follow you on the socials, how to stream all your music?
Yeah, it's Caitlin Mae Music across all social media, apart from Twitter, which is Caitlin Mae UK. And I recently opened up a Patreon account where all my releases will be uploaded 5 days earlier, and that is Caitlin Mae on Patreon, and then on Spotify and Apple Music it's all Caitlin Mae, and the links to pre-order and pre-save are in my Instagram bio, and they're plastered all over my Facebook, and it would be incredible if you did pre-order.
Lovely. Well, best of luck with everything. I'm really excited. This year's going to be really cool, and thank you so much for talking to us again. It's been really lovely having you back on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been incredible.
1, 2, 3, 4.
See you around with the same face.
alright. Breathe.